you are going to create a read-write. We're going to use a concept that's very similar to what we did with the ROM array, but you have a few different things here. Number one, you got a new port. Okay, you got a data in, because not only are you going to read from the array, you're going to write to it. So what we want to do is we want to have an address, obviously, we want a data out, but we're also going to have a data in. Then we also need a signal, which is going to tell us when we write, and you typically do it as write enable. Sometimes it'll be WR, but write enable is more accurate because it's when it's asserted, you're writing. Why don't we go for the gusto and go for asynchronous right away? Okay? How's that feel? What is the initial value of this array? Your answer would be undefined. Thank you. All right, so I fired up myself a little model sim, and I'm going to do File, New Project, and I happen to create a folder which is called Read Write Sync, and I brought over a test bench. Okay, so I got myself a project, and I'm going to add an existing file. So I added that thing, and then I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to create a new project file, and it's going to be called readwrite 4x4 sync boom. Okay? All right, so the first thing I want to do is take a look at my test bench and get some information. Okay? First piece of information I want is what are the ports for this puppy? Well, if I look at my component, I'm going to have readwrite 4x4 sync. I've got a clock, address, data in, write enable, and data out. 2 address lines to access 4 nibbles of information. Okay? So what I'll do is I'll come back over here. Let me grab my library, and I'll paste this puppy in there, boom. And then I'll go get my library. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? Then all I need to do is say entity, boom, is, and then I come down here and I go end entity, and then I'm going to do my architecture. So I'm going to grab this puppy on the copy and paste, and I'll come down here and go architecture, boom, arc of boom is boom, 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 and architecture, boom, semi, save it, boom. Okay, compile, selected. Compile, let's get the compiler woken up. It's been a long spring break. All right, so here comes the question. How do we define this thing? If you remember with a ROM array, we defined a new type and then we assign that type to a constant. In this situation, we are not going to use a constant. We are going to use a signal for the array. We need a signal because we want to write to it and read from it. So it's not just a constant value that spits out. Okay? So here's how we do this. I'm going to go create a new type. So I do type. And then I'm going to create it and I'm going to call it read-write type. Okay? And then it is an array, and it's the same array structure that we did before. It's going to be a 4x4. Okay? And so what we do is we give the indexes first, so 0 to 3. So that's going to be the address that comes in. And then it's of standard logic vector 3 down to 0. So at each of the indices, 0, 1, 2, and 3, you're going to have 4 bits of standard logic. Now I do signal, and I'm going to create this array, and what do you want to call it? Let's just call it read-write, and I give it the type, read-write type. I have now just created my array. Okay? That's it. All that's left is how you access it. Now, we are going to do this with a single process, and it is a synchronous system. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say process. What's in the sensitivity list? Clock. So I say clock. And now what I'm going to do is there's no reset. Okay? So all I got to do is figure out whether I'm reading from it or writing to it. So why don't we do the situation where we're writing? So I'm going to say begin. And then I say if rising edge clock. Then I come back over here. I always forget the thens. Okay. Then I'm going to come down under here, and this is what I'm going to do. I get a rising edge. I need to check if write enable is asserted. So how do I do that? I put a nested if in here. So I go if write enable is equal to a 1, then what do? I am going to write information from the port called data in, and I want to stuff it into the read-write signal. So I actually just do this. Okay? Read-write is going to get assigned data in. But holy smokes, we got to do some stuff to read-write, don't we? Okay? First of all, we need to give it the index of where we're writing the information. That comes from the address line. But the address is in standard logic vector, and it's 2 bits. We need to convert that to an integer, so we have to do some typecasting here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take address, and we're going to convert it to something. So the way you have to do it is you first do unsigned, and then you come over to here, and you cast it back to integer, and you say to integer. And now what we've done is we've converted the address, which was standard logic vector, to unsigned, then to integer, and then we use that to tell it where in read-write to stuff data in. Otherwise, what do you think you're going to do? Otherwise, that means we are going to be reading. So all we need to do is, if we're going to read, we're going to assign to data out, and now we just need to do the same type of thing. Data out is going to get information from the read-write array, but we have to also give it the address. So what I can do is I can actually just take this entire thing right here and say data out gets assigned, boom. Go to read-write, take the address, convert it to unsigned, then to integer, and then go ahead and stuff that data out. We end it. That is all we're going to do. So we go end if. Come over here. I go end if. And then I come here and I go end process. Okay? Take a look at that and see if there's any issues. Yes, you need to have a numeric library because we're using the unsigned. So I need to go back up here and put on numeric. But check it out. It's one process. You have if rising edge of clock, do something. Otherwise, don't do anything. Underneath, you check, is it writing or reading? When you write to it, you go into read-write. You stuff whatever's on data in into read-write. If you're reading, you take whatever's in read-write and you assign it to data out. How's that feel? All right, all right.